It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
I somehow keep wondering how we have every decent man and woman listening. Clearly, we're on the wrong side of that map. It's a Sunday morning, time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekend automotive experience. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to America's Automotive Radio Show. Test Miles, locally created, nationally celebrated. This morning's team includes Misfits, Rapscallions, and Ne'er-Do-Wells. Sean Walker is here, and Old Man Brad. On the show today, we'll review cars that we have been driving. Andrea Deliz, the brand manager from Dodge, will be here along to talk about the Durango, which is our long-term test drive. We will help you out with cars for your midlife crisis, and we get to talk about the latest news stories which are happening. A big one in Portland. That's all coming up on the show. So what have we been test driving? Well, I have been test driving the new Land Rover Range Rover L, which is the long version, the supercharged version. 8 extra inches of legroom in the back of this thing. My adopted son got in it the other day, and he went, "Whoa, I've never been in a car with this much legroom in the back." And the first thing that came out of Sean's mouth was, "Brad would love this," because it's like a limo at the back. 3-liter V6 supercharged, or a 5-liter V8, 340 horsepower, 461 horsepower, 8-speed electronically controlled transmission. This vehicle does not do so badly on gas. The V8 does about 19 miles a gallon, and where the V6 will get about 23 miles a gallon. So what does it compete with? That's a difficult question. I mean, what are the giant SUVs out there? The Escalade, of course, the Infiniti QX80, Mercedes-Benz GL, and the Lincoln Navigator. Oh, the Lincoln Navigator is probably like a size
Lexus,
smaller.
The LX.
LX, which there will be a new one at Pebble Beach, by the way. They will be unveiling that in about 6 weeks' time. And then the different trim levels for the Range Rover full-size are HSE, the Vogue SE, the Autobiography, and blah, 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 blah.
The Autobiography.
The Black this, the Autobiography Black, the Special Edition this, I'm Better
How
Than You.
much do you want to open your
this.
checkbook?
Yes. And so, there's lots of different editions of this. I will tell you a couple things about this vehicle. First of all, I think $119,000, the one I'm driving, which is, well, 2 of those as a house. We could probably live in them, I'm sure. The interesting thing about this is the reason I have the vehicle is I'm looking at some latest technology. Most people may not know this, but Land Rover Jaguar, the company, moved their tech center here to Portland. So their tech office is now in Portland, the one that the office that does all the latest tech as far as autonomous driving, as far as all the infotainment systems on the inside. So all their technology is actually here in Portland. So along with Nike and Adidas and Intel and the big companies that are here, Doc Martin, also they have a Jaguar Tech Center here. The interesting thing is this new tech that they're developing, mostly out of England, not so much the tech center here, is a pothole detection system. And so what it does is when you drive over a pothole, it registers the pothole, and the next driver behind you who is in a Range Rover or a Land Rover, it will tell them on the windshield, hey, there's a pothole here in the road. It'll let you know where it is so you can avoid it. And you might think, oh, it's just a silly piece of technology we don't need. Until you realize this is just the average cost that potholes do damage to cars a year is $377. And for every dollar we do not spend on repairing a pothole, in 5 years' time, that costs us $7 to repair it. Potholes are a huge problem.
So the guys at Wheelcraft are not going to be happy with this technology.
Well, no, they probably won't, although most punctures of tires are caused by potholes, not by sharp objects entering the car. So this is an absolutely massive problem. A lot of our roads were built to last 50 years. In the 50s, we're 15 years beyond that right now, and the roads are only here because of good maintenance.
So let me get this 100% straight. They moved all the technology here to Portland.
Yes.
Where we don't pay for road repair at all, apparently.
Well, actually, we're not
so
too
that they
bad.
could study potholes.
We don't come into the top 20 of the United States. I will tell you, we don't come into the top 20 cities in the United States. LA is number one. 64% of the roads in LA are considered to be in poor conditions. So there are a lot worse cities out there in the United States. Now, I talked about this on Rebecca and Steve on Friday, a couple of weeks ago on Friday morning. Lars Larson comes running down the hallway after me and goes, Nick, do you think they could get a system in which it would email every city councillor every time it went over a pothole? Which I think is a great idea. And then John Vincent from the Portland Tribune pointed out that there is actually technology now where you can throw a chip into a pothole, and every time a Twitter user goes over it, it tweets the city that there's a pothole. Great ideas. But I think Jaguar Land Rover on the road. So that's why I had the car. So that's the first car. We can definitely talk about that a little bit more. We were going to venture today also to let you know that we're going to open phone lines as well. So take down the number in case you have a comment on stuff. 503-417-9595 is the phone number. The other car I've been driving, Mercedes-Benz ML. Great little vehicle. It does come with a diesel, which I really like, but it does come in about 7 different engine options, I think. 3-litre V6, a diesel, 3.5-litre, a 4.6-litre, a V8, which is a 5.5-litre. So they're on a 4.6-litre V8 as well. So lots of different options. Everything from 240 horsepower to 518. 7-speed automatic. The trim levels are the 350, the Blue Tech, the 400, and of course the AMG version that everybody wants. $49,800 starting price. If you get the Designo interior, I think it adds $30,000 to the price of the car. So just the interior.
Is that Designo?
Yeah. Well, I think it's. You would think it would be pronounced Designo, but it's actually Designo. It's when I asked
so
Mercedes,
Americanized.
yes, it feels like it's wrong, and you should be a little more continental in saying that. But apparently, it's Designo.
So, how is the fit and finish on this? Because I remember when the ML first came out, that first year was terrible, rattles, and they had all sorts of issues with that car.
I mean, Mercedes is the number one manufacturer without recalls, so it's pretty good. They have very little to complain about. You know
Which is shocking. We were actually going on the list, and
number 2 is very obvious. I thought number 2 would be number 1. That's Mazda. But do you know who number 3 is for the car company with the least recalls?
But they're going on volume too. So
volume of cars produced.
Well, it's clearly not Toyota right now.
No, but you're on the right track.
it's
With Scion?
No, it's GM.
Really?
GM and number 3 with the least recalls.
But they're
in the
going on
United States.
volume, so all the fleet sales.
Per percentage of the cars you produce.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, what have you been driving?
I've been driving the Volkswagen e-Golf Premium, and I'm not a fan of electric cars, but really enjoy this one. It was 2015 Motor Trend Car of the Year. This car it was fun to drive, and I'd say it was better to drive than a regular Volkswagen. Just with the battery being so low to the ground and low center of gravity, this car handles like a dream. They say you get about 83 miles per range on the battery, but I was getting around 100.
It's all driver dependent.
Well, yeah, I was actually driving this car pretty hard, too, because
It's got 3 different modes or something to drive.
It has 3 different braking modes, and that's the only down part I don't like about it is because every time you get in, you have to reset it. And I actually had it on the stage 3 where it brakes a lot harder. It didn't faze me that much, but it's just every time you go in and start the car, you have to reset that. So I think that's a little pain. It's like I have it on the 3rd stage, just leave it there for me.
Okay.
Its competitors are the Spark EV, Fiat E500e, Ford Focus Electric, Nissan Leaf, and the Kia Soul EV. And out of all those, I think this is definitely the best driving. Is fun to drive. It's great to get into. Has also 52 cubic feet of space inside if you fold everything, so you have room to haul everything.
I know you guys were all fans for Drive Revolution of the Fiat, but I picked this as my favorite car for
It was a tough call. It was a tough call. I love that 500e, but that was a tough call.
The starting price for it is $35,445, but you can get one on lease for $229 a month. So that's a steal.
I think all their badging on the electric cars is blue.
Yeah.
Which is a color designation for the electric car.
Oh, all right.
Polarized cop.
All right. Brad, what have you been driving?
I had a car. Well, so when we do these test drives, we have to realize that not all the vehicles we get to review were designed for you or me, because I had the Nissan Juke Nismo RS.
Right.
Which, while fun to drive and enjoyable getting in and out of this car for me with the Recaro seats on the RS, was ponderous to painful. It was just difficult, and but once I negotiated that, and let's not talk about getting out of the vehicle, It was surprisingly nimble and fun.
I just have two pictures of your 6-year-olds, six-year-olds trying to get you out of the car.
Yeah, it took both of them.
Kate, push!
It's like the old days on the Corvette where you just kind of move your bum over the top of the seat and then fall down.
But
that's
I
how
think
you
with
get
the
in.
seats, like these seats are designed for race cars, like the 370Z and the GTR, which sit pretty low to the ground. And this being a CUV, it kind of is up there, so it's a little harder to get in.
Yeah, the tough thing for this vehicle is that it's real aggressively designed, so it's going to have a limited market there, and then you'll also have really rugged competitors like the Renegade and the Kia Soul, the Mazda CX-3. Price range for the base goes from $23,000 up to this RS, which is $31,000.
Right.
So there's a lot of options in that category.
Excellent. Well done, guys. Those are our cars. Of course, more information at testmiles.com. You can see some of the cars reviewed. Coming up, we're going to talk about Dodge Durango. We have a long-term loan of a Dodge Durango, and Andrea from Dodge is going to be joining us to talk about that Durango, a little bit of the exterior design, and some of the marketing plan. That's coming up on Test Miles and FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
It's Test Miles on FM News 101. Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Welcome back to Test Miles. This is FM News 101 KXL, automotive radio show, live from our studios in downtown Portland. For all the latest automotive news, follow us at Twitter. It's at Test Miles.
So here's a fun fact. In 1938, crash tests were first carried out by Audi. Without realizing it, the company had set a precedent for all other car manufacturers. And I don't think this was the unintended acceleration of the 5000.
It's a very personal opinion of mine, but truly I feel that the Dodge brand is probably most definitely, or of my non-luxury favorites. I think it is. The target customer for the Dodge is that blue-collar worker that wants more power, more speed, and more car for their money. They're not willing to settle for a 500-horsepower Mustang or a 485-horsepower Camaro. They want the ability to have a car that has over 700 horsepower, a car that looks, feels, and drives above its competitors and is still American. My love for Dodge is very public, and the brand really resonates with me. But let's talk about a particular Dodge. The Test Miles team currently have a long-term Dodge Durango in our fleet. And joining us on the show this morning is Andrea Delez, the Durango brand manager. Andrea, good morning. Let's start by asking you, the Dodge Durango exterior is a very bold design, isn't it?
It is a bold design, definitely. It really carries the design cues of our popular Dodge Charger. It has that muscular Coke bottle body size and world-class precisioning. So it has the LED daytime running lamps, our signature crosshair grille, and an aggressive sculpted hood. And the rear is fully tied into our latest Dodge styling cues with the signature LED racetrack tail lamps. Definitely.
Well, one of the things about this vehicle, I look out there and there is so many. I'm an extrovert in many ways. I have red pants. I've had a red stripe down the middle of my head. I like things that are really out there. You didn't skimp at all on making this brand. It's really a very in your face. It never lost its mojo, and you really wanted to be in front of everybody with it, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. That's what our designers had in mind when they redesigned it for the third generation. It has that aggressive, mean front fascia, and then the rear fascia. The rear really makes Durango unmistakable on the highway. It's basically 192 LED lights that light up to be one single stream of red. So really, you see a Durango on the road, and you know it's a Durango.
Absolutely, and I love looking at that vehicle from the rear as well when driving because of that large racing type of light across the back. Let's talk a little bit about the headlamps, LED headlamps at the front. That's not particularly groundbreaking, but not every SUV is putting them in there yet. Along with that as well, the automatic projection headlamps and the daytime running lights, right?
Yep. So we have projector headlamps. We have optional LED daytime running lamps, which gives it a really cool, mean look during the day. And then we have fog lamps as well. And we also have available HID headlamps so the driver can see, a little bit better at night. The Durango pretty much has it all.
You have the automatic dipping high beams as well. So explain to me how that works.
So basically, it happens automatically. So at night, if the for me personally, when I'm driving, sometimes I have a hard time seeing at night. So the HID lights pretty much project, and you can see a lot better than with regular headlamps.
And of course, it goes into high beams automatically if it needs to. And when it senses another car on the way towards you, it'll switch down. The other thing I love about the front of the vehicle is this the floating crosshair grille. Dodge has managed to keep the grille with that crosshair in pretty much all of its brands, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's something that's signature across all of our Dodge nameplates is our signature crosshair grille. Another cool thing that our customers are really loving is the cool appearance packages that we can put on the cars. So with that grille, you can black it out, so it gives it a really cool, aggressive look on the highway when it's all black as well.
I do actually really adore the fact that you guys were one of the first to do the black or the, I guess it's called black chrome wheels and the black chrome grille as well. When I ordered mine, I forgot about that. And when it got here, I asked Rick Deneau if I could change it, and he said, "No, sorry, it has to come back."
Your next order.
Yeah, my next order, I'll do it. I do love those the blacked out chrome. Let's talk a little bit about things that are on this vehicle that you'd find much more in a luxury vehicle. Your heated side mirrors.
Yeah, we have heated side mirrors. That's from the outside. We have 20-inch wheels available on all of our trims. And then when you're moving to the inside, we have soft touch surfaces throughout. So we have premium Napa leather seats, a rotary shifter, which is something that was previously only seen in more luxury vehicles. The Dodge Durango comes with a rotary shifter standard. We have a heated steering wheel, heated second row seats, tons of safety features. And actually now we just introduced Beats premium audio to the inside of the car. So now we have, along with all the technology, you get an amazing sound system to go with the car.
Absolutely. One of the things I always like to explain to people is with these rotary shifters, that the Ram shares the same rotary shifter as the Dodge vehicles. But the great thing about it is it takes the size of a fist, whereas the old shifter will take the size of a shoebox. That means that you have so much more space on the interior, right?
Definitely. I mean, that's one of the things I love about my Durango is the rotary shifter gives you so much space up front where to put all your knickknacks, things that your cell phone, your iPod, everything you can imagine fits up right in our up front above the rotary shifter.
Andrea, thanks so much. And of course, you can go to Dodge.com to find out more. You're listening to Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com. Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com.
Live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning, this is America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. Happy Father's Day. For more fun facts about cars, you can visit our Facebook page at Test Miles.
So here's a fun fact. The first production car to have a laminated windscreen, who would you think? Obviously Volvo with the PV444.
There you go. Volvo tend to do a lot of firsts, don't they? All right. Fatherhood is rich with rewarding. They might also come with some sacrifices, as Brad well knows. Your free time, for instance, that can easily evaporate. As well, your kids can take up your time, and as you get older, your hair might thin, and your waistline might expand, and you can have some things that get stolen from you a little bit. Fatherhood goes on. Yes, your soul. Well, it depends how bad your kids are. So Test Miles, we can send you back in time a little bit. We have 10 cars to indulge you for Father's Day that can peel away the years and the fatigue and make you somewhat young again. We're looking at cars for your midlife crisis this morning on the show. And here's a list that we came up with, and some of you may
Did we come up with this? Because I don't want to be held responsible for this.
It's an amalgamation.
Okay.
Because me and Brad agree on some other cars that should not be on this list.
Well, you don't agree with the Buick Regal. The Buick Regal, you say, shouldn't be on this list.
No, it's fine, because I get how it's a fun little sleeper. Because, I mean, it's a fun car.
The RS is definitely fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a great car, but that's a car you drive when you're a dad.
By the way, if you have one you want to add to this list, 503-417-9595 is the phone number. We've had a bunch of phone calls we haven't got to yet, but call anyway, 503-417-9595. All right, so Buick Regal, I think the RS should be in there. What about the ATS, the Cadillac?
I don't know. There's too much silence. It's a fun car, but I don't think it should be on the list. I think, like, even on the next one, there's a 300, and I think, why is a 300 on? That's a car that you just buy for luxury. If you want, get the Charger Hellcat. That should be on the list.
Yeah, but you're talking extremes.
But we're talking midlife crisis.
Yes, you are, but a crisis doesn't mean you have to respond by cutting off your arm. It's a crisis means you go out and buy a new car to make yourself feel better. You don't have to have 707 horsepower. But that's an extreme.
That's not an extreme.
Yes, it is.
A Porsche Boxer, you can get into like 50 grand.
Right, but it's an extreme to buy a car. It's a two-door car, two-seater. If you have a family of 4.
But that's a whole midlife crisis.
Yeah,
Forget the kids. You want to go golfing. You need enough room for a golf bag.
Yeah, maybe. And no other passenger, though. The Camaro, especially the SS.
I can go with that.
I can live with that, but I've had Camaros my whole life, so.
And maybe you've had a midlife crisis
your whole life.
My buddy actually said that. He's like, I can't ever say you had a midlife crisis. You've owned sports cars your whole life.
I think that the 300, definitely the top trim, the 300C, I would buy as a midlife crisis car. I mean, I would actually personally buy that. I love that vehicle.
But I don't see it as a
drive,
midlife crisis.
Rear-wheel drive, you get the V8 version.
I see that car as something you want to look good and still have fun in. And
I absolutely don't think you have a cash on reality. Somebody that has four people in their family, has a family, probably driving an Escort or something like that, that would be definitely a resolve to a midlife crisis. The 300C with rear-wheel drive and V8.
But midlife crisis is you're supposed to dump the family, go get the sports car and hot.
Hey, we're not advocating any of that. I'm just saying.
So here's the real test for the midlife crisis. If you're driving a Chrysler 300, are you getting that 30-year-old woman that you meet in the bar to go out with you?
Wait a second.
That's the midlife crisis.
You guys are taking it to the extreme. You don't have to get a divorce, dump the kids, and go live in a penthouse in the Pearl District when you have a midlife crisis.
I didn't say you took her home. I just said catch and release.
It's about making yourself fresh and younger. What about a Challenger, Dodge Challenger?
Definitely.
All right.
All versions.
The next
actually,
one
a 1969 would be the way to go.
Yes. Really? That's if you're if you're having a 70-year-old crisis.
If you're just cool.
All right, Mustang. Does that meet the criteria?
I think any muscle car.
All right. I could go with any muscle car. What about the luxury cars, like the Genesis, the Hyundai Genesis?
I see the coupe being on there because the coupe would be fun to drive, and it's a little sports car. And it's a 4-seater, so you can cram a kid back there. But I think
you're missing the point about a midlife crisis. It's supposed to make you feel better. You're not supposed to change your life from one end to the other. You might be.
That's why the muscle cars really are it, because you can drive it up the gorge and go fast.
I would agree with that. What about the Jaguar?
The
F-Type. You said the F-Type,
the
right?
F-Type, definitely.
Yeah, the F-Type is, but again, it's a 2-seater. It may not be an option for everybody.
And the ultimate is the Corvette, and it always has been, always will be. Mm-hmm. And the new Corvette, big old guys like me can get in and out of that car now, and it's the ultimate.
$55,000 starting. You probably wouldn't own one for less than 70, but that's expensive.
All of these are.
Yeah,
you're talking 50 grand for pretty much.
What about
anything.
midlife crisis cars for under 18,000?
Nothing.
A Kia Soul.
A Ducati. Jeep Grand Cherokee.
The SRT.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think the Grand Cherokee is pretty cool car. You don't have to have the top, the trim.
I'm just saying.
Wait a second. The Durango. The Durango makes the list. Dodge Durango.
Yeah, I think the Durango or Wrangler.
What would
Something
you buy?
like that. Something that you would go off-roading.
I'm interested.
And have fun.
Facebook. Leave us comments on Facebook. I'm interested to know what you would drive, what your midlife crisis car was for Father's Day, to make yourself do all the things that the kids have sucked out of you to try and put back with the car. Isn't this very American? It's like we want a resolve. We're not willing to go down the path of natural aging and the whole. No, we're fighting it tooth and nail.
This is a guy's version of Botox right here.
Exactly.
Not even the family thing, but a midlife crisis to me is to have that car that you always wanted as a kid that you couldn't have.
But not everybody wants a Porsche Boxster.
Well, they should.
I know I don't.
I'd
have a 4-door luxury sedan way before
I know
I'd have
not
that.
everyone wants that. Those are the Prius owners. But
oh man, I hope you got protection when you leave the studio today.
I can outrun
like
a Prius.
60% of
Every Uber driver out there in their Prius is going to be circling for you.
yeah, they're going to be standing outside the station when you leave today. Midlife car, I think. What's your ultimate? So each of you tell me what your ultimate midlife crisis car is.
Corvette Z06 or Dodge Viper.
All right.
I couldn't get in and out of that Dodge Viper. I couldn't see out of it anyway. The Corvette.
You would?
Yeah.
I think definitely the Corvette's probably the best car for the money, but I would tell you, if I was going to do it, a midlife crisis car, seriously.
Mini Cooper?
No. Jaguar XJ, top of the line supercharged V8.
Yeah,
Huge luxury sedan, or maybe an Audi S7.
Well, I mean, if we're going to go crazy, the Audi R.
Ooh, the R7?
Yeah,
the
R8.
The R8. Oh, the R8. Yeah, I could do that too. It's a two-seater, 0 to 60 miles an hour. 0 to 60 miles an hour.
In a heartbeat.
No, sorry. 0 to 100 miles an hour in 7 seconds. And I've done that. And I had my doctor in the car with me, and he was stamping on the floor so hard I thought he was going to put a hole through it. All right, you're listening to Test Miles and FM News 101 KXL. Those are your cars through midlife crisis. Coming up, we're going to talk about something that was an Oregonian story. We're going to look at some of the top news stories, but parking is being taken up in Portland, and it's kind of serious by a rideshare company, and there is no space, according to some people, in the downtown areas. We want to hear your input. We also want to talk about the big story about, is it right for these car-sharing cars to take up our parking spaces in the city? That's coming up next on Test Miles.
It's Test Miles on FM News 101. Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Clearly, our Father's Day show is a little haphazard today. We're kind of all over the place. Live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning. This is America's car radio show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, you can go to our website, TestMiles.com.
Oh, crap, that's me. Sorry. Here's a fun fact to impress your friends. It takes 150 hours to hand build a Continental GT.
Well, there you go. 150 hours of hard daddy labor. And I guess, and mom labor, too.
Could be.
There's plenty of ladies that work on the line, too. So, celebration of their hard work as everybody else's hard work today on Father's Day. We have been looking, this is the part of the show, of course, we look at all the new news stories that have been coming out for the week, the big stories. And the biggest story that I could find is kind of an important story is Cars to Go is supposed to be an improvement to Portland's livability. But there was an Oregonian article this week by Joseph Rose that cites Nick Zukin, owner of the popular Chinatown eatery Mi Miro Mall. He isn't sure that the car-sharing companies really is helping our livability. He took a photograph of a street in downtown Portland where 60% of the parking spaces were taken up by cars to go. And this really announces the debate of whether these ride-sharing companies have turned out to be good. I think we've given it enough time. Have they turned out to be a good idea? Because I think what they've done is those people that don't own cars, they haven't made people into non-car owners. What they've done is that people that don't own cars just put more people on the street.
So there's a couple of different theories. One, the city of Portland, by what they've done over the last 20 or 30 years, clearly don't want people to drive much. They make it harder to park, and they'd rather have you take the bus and the train and all that. So these are supposed to be for that. But then you've got the millennials, and now I sound like a really old guy. The kids these days, they don't want to own anything. So I see the value of this, but there seems to be no rules or restrictions on where they park and anything like that. So it's almost impossible to find a parking spot downtown.
It's interesting that I don't think the city have responded, by the way, to his complaints and his rant.
That's a shock.
They're taking up parking spaces, which are metered parking spaces. Does that mean the city is losing that money, or do they charge cars to go for those metered parking spaces?
Well, didn't you bring up a fact that there is parking tickets for these that are unpaid parking tickets?
No, the city actually has an extraordinary large amount. I think somewhere in close to $12 million of unpaid parking tickets. But you know, the parking in this city is getting out of control. Not in the sense that we need more control on the parking, but to me, the parking meter maids, meter men, meter persons, I'm not sure what the correct terminology is, are very aggressive, and it's very difficult to find good parking downtown unless you want to pay $5 an hour in some of these private lots. Now, a smart park is a great place to go, $1.75, I think, an hour. That's just very reasonable.
And so here's an interesting note, too, for the car collector guys who don't want to drive with their front plate, or even if they have it in their window, if you park on the street, you're going to get a ticket.
Yeah, you get a ticket for no front plate.
So you need to park in a private parking lot for that.
Right. Well, you're supposed to have a ticket on your front, license plate on the front of your car.
Right, but you can't even put it in your windshield. You've got to have it affixed to your bumper or you'll get a ticket.
That's a difficult legal question about whether we should have front plates or not. I think it's a slightly separate question. The fact is that cars to go are taking up parking spaces, and those cars are sitting on the street as per Nick Zukin's photograph. I think it's very interesting that I don't think ride sharing is working as well as it.
So I think they pay an annual fee, but then the drivers just park haphazardly anywhere they want, truck loading zones and everything.
They have a new permit for cars to go do, which currently requires the company to pay $6,740,810 a year for street parking.
I think that's what I paid in fines last year.
Yeah, but Brad, it's you that's behind the wheel. We can't take any responsibility for that. All right, you had a couple of other stories, but you also wanted to mention something about Father's Day, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I think we probably all got into this industry because of our father, and some of the interesting things. I think Joel Feder, our buddy, posted what car did your dad drive, and I thought it was a great connection. And my dad, Bill, who listens to the show every week and then gives me a critique after the show every week.
Good, because we've arranged it so he does and I don't have.
Exactly. And he taught Dale Carnegie and all that, so he reminds me not to have wasted words. And I think any of my words are wasted, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But my first memory was like a 59 Impala with the wings and the whole thing. And then he worked his way up the GM tree.
By the way, that's 1815.
Exactly. Worked his way up the GM tree as people did back in that day, and then made it to the Buick Grand Sport with the 455, which was spectacular. And then gas price hit the Pontiac Le Mans with the overhead cam 6, and it was so gutless he got rid of it after 6 months, bought his old Grand Sport back. So come from a long line of car folks. And then, unfortunately, he worked his way and finally got the Cadillac. But that was in the mid-'80s.
Right.
With the Citroen. Yeah. Or not the Citroen, the Cimarron.
Right.
Yeah, so that was kind of sad. So what was your first?
My
dad
got me into Land Rovers because he had a Defender. And that's really where I got my love of SUVs, of Land Rovers. I'm an SUV guy by heart. I was looking at my driveway this week. I have a Land Rover, I have a Range Rover, I have a Dodge Durango, and I have a Mercedes ML. That's like 4 of the most expensive.
I don't think you could have that collection in Southeast Portland without getting it defaced.
No, I live in Southeast.
Well, sort of. Not over in Hawthorne and that area.
Yeah, there's probably people who would be haters. Sean, any memories?
Actually, it's sad, but my dad didn't get me into cars. It was my mom, and my mom had a 442 and a GTO.
See?
And she's the one who got me into Camaros and everything.
There you go. All right. We have the music, which means it's time to end the show. This week's Test Miles, of course, can be heard at testmiles.com, as every week can. We have a load of news. I'm off to Italy this week to go see the new Alfa Romeos.
I think I'm going to get to Camus, maybe.
We will see you next week on the show. I have reports of all of that and all the good stuff that's going on the East Coast this week as well. We'll have more information about that next week. You're listening to Test Miles and FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.